And before handing over to Prof, I think I've got about 2 more minutes maybe to leave the attendees with a thought in an attempt to try and anchor the conversation. Leadership is an opportunity to use power to achieve either organizational, political, or even institutional goals. And personalized leaders exercise power for self-interest. Socialized leaders exercise power for higher goals to the benefit of others. And I think the importance of this conversation then is that leaders must be aware of the ethical responsibilities of possessing power to ensure that the exercise of that power, it helps rather than it harms. Ultimately, ethics and leadership then can't be separated. And the ethical dilemmas that accompany positions of power should be clearly understood by those who aspire to some of these positions and those that occupy them, as the ethical responsibilities and accountabilities are manifold, particularly within the context of an emerging economy like South Africa, with the socio-economic conditions that we have to operate in, and many of the complexities and many of the troubles that the president has already alluded to. I'm assuming then, by us exploring here tonight, Prof, the bad habits of leaders, that we'll be learning about some of those instances where the awareness of these ethical responsibilities was just not there, or where the awareness was there, but they were just simply betrayed. And it is my hope that by the time that we say goodnight here tonight after this session, that we would have learned a little bit more about how we can avoid falling into some of these bad habits. And if not, how do we then identify these early and ensure that the exercise of power in the organization is legitimate? And what we mean by it being legitimate is that it is based on, or that it holds the attitudes that conform to the norms and the expectations of those people that we are leading, or the members of the group that we're leading. With those words, I'd like to hand over to you, Prof, and look forward to what you have to present, and of course the engagement from members when you are done.
Okay, thank you very much, Radebe, for those kind words and introduction. Right. What I decided to do is to talk about bad habits of leaders. And I'm using the word habit deliberately and consciously, because habits, if you do them all the time, they tend to become your character. And then from there, it becomes part of your character and how you project yourself and how you look and how you present yourself. And then as a leader, the impact you have is massive. Massive on an organization, massive on the people you lead, massive on an institution, as we know, also very massive to the entire country. So therefore, if you've got bad habits, you tend to develop a very negative, toxic environment, whether it's at the national level or is at the organizational level. If you've got good habits as a leader, you tend to develop a very conducive environment. If it's in an organization, an environment that is conducive for growth, learning, and development, particularly unleashing the talent of the people that you're leading. And if you've got good habits, you do tend to also lead the organization in a very ethical way. Now, I'm just going to go through them very quickly. I've realized now, particularly because I'm in a business education field now, after 30 years of being in a business, corporate and small and medium enterprises, as well as big business for over the I've realized that what we teach at business school sometimes has got plants the seed of the kind of greed and unethical behavior. We teach at business schools, and I was speaking to MBAs the other day, and I was sharing some of the thoughts that I'm sharing today, is that we teach you to win too much. And you've been told that you must win at all costs, whether it matters or it doesn't matter, in all situations, whether it's besides the point, you must win. Now, once you've got that mindset of winning, tends to be winning for yourself. It could be winning in the political, rising up the ladder of the corporate. It could be winning in terms of negotiating a deal. Could be winning in terms of growing your business. But if your only single focus is that to win, which is what we teach a lot, is to win only for one stakeholder, that is the shareholder, optimization and maximization of profit, excluding all other stakeholders, the communities, the suppliers, the employees, and the planet in which you operate. You tend to have problems. Some of the biggest problems we've seen in major corporate failures like Stanhoff is because they were driven by this winning too much. I've seen this in my time to explain, tell you a story. And playing favorites, don't play favorites when you're a leader. The right is right, the wrong is wrong. You can coach, you can counsel, you can train, you can advise, and you can give your input, but don't be seen to be treating one group and versus the other group. Right now, we've got factionalism in our ruling party because of the very same playing favorites kind of principle. And it's unethical to do that. Let's move on to the next one. Right. I was running very quickly because we want to open time for question and answer. So, call to action. Whenever I speak, I want to make sure that there's an action that you take home and go and do as an assignment. So what I'm asking you to do, I ran through all these habits. I'm happy that if you're a member of BMF, you can access on the SharePoint of BMF this presentation. But I want you to take time to reflect on the list of these bad habits and identify 2 or 3 that might apply to yourself. Don't start saying, hey, Jesus, like when a preacher says, hey, I wish somebody was here to come and listen. No. You. Look at those that apply to yourself and then make a decision to change them. Listen, if you change the little corner where you are, in your small department where you've now been promoted to, or business unit, and you make the impact in the lives of those people by just changing your bad behavior, the ripple effect is massive. Trust me, over the last 3 decades in my life, I've seen this, but by changing small, the multiplier effect is massive. It's like a ripple effect. When you throw a stone on a big pond, it just goes through. And the place where you are right now, and the people that you have got responsibility for, your subordinates, your team, the only mandate you have is to make sure that you move them from A to B in their journey of reaching that, so that at the end they can go back and say, one of the bosses that I ever worked for monetized my potential, gave me opportunities, created a conducive environment for me to grow. So that is the challenge I'm leaving to you. Stop bad habits, focus on good habits, and making sure that you become an ethical and competent leader. But where I'm focusing now is the next generation of leaders. So we need to make sure is that you, BMF members, up and coming, huge talent, huge potential. If you assume government, you must preach this message. You must say it as loud as possible, and making sure that we fight corruption in all our corners in which we operate. And then the planning and execution, very important. What I say is that in our government, we've been able to develop plans. The only thing that we need to do, and I'm urging you BMF leaders, execute, implement. Let's get that culture of getting things done. I see Sandile says, how do you encourage ethical leaders in the world that promotes winning at all costs? Where do I start, especially when in a junior management position? I can empathize with you because your boss is putting targets and is putting pressure on you, and there's incentives, there's all sorts of that. But again, listen, there's nothing that speaks better for you than excellence. So one of the ethos of BMF is to be excellent. So work hard, work smart, and work excellently and deliver results.